Hello and welcome back to Color Sparkle Shine. Today I thought I would work on one of my own drawings. Yes, I love coloring books, but I also love to draw some of my own stuff. My own stuff does not compare to coloring books. I'm not here to say that I am like a drawing artist or anything. I just enjoy drawing. So I drew this. Right now, I feel like there's so many coloring books out there that have this concept of like a world inside a jar. And I love it. I love this concept. So I drew this jar, if you will, and I thought about jellyfish because it's summer. And I thought if I was in a little jar with jellyfish, if I was a fish in with jellyfish, I would want to jump out. So that's what came to my mind. So I just thought about this like little goldfish jumping out of the jar. And it seemed so plain that I wanted to add some of my little homemade drawn flowers. And I wanted to challenge myself with how the flower will look a little different here because it kind of overlaps the jar. So I want to challenge myself. And I thought I would do some different mediums. So I thought I would do all water based, but I thought I would use my Tombows for the intricate parts of this drawing. And then I want to watercolor like on the outside parts around here, just to bring some color, maybe some splashes or whatever. I don't know. I'll do as I go. But I know my Tombows are water-based too. They're almost like watercolors. You can add waters to these and they'll blend just like a watercolor. So I want to use those for more, like I said, for like the more intricate parts. And then I really want to get out my watercolors, which my favorite watercolors at the moment are Jane Davenport. So I have two nice palettes by her. I have this one, and then, which is more, like it says it's like a more neutral palette, more natural. And then of course I had to buy the teal one because teal is my absolute favorite color. And this is more of a bright palette, and this has more of like the greens and the purples and the pinks and stuff. So I have like a good mixture of a nice watercolor palette. So I figured if I use my Jane Davenports and my Tombows, I'll have a nice little selection here to kind of bring my drawing to life. I thought it'd be fun to color something that I drew. Not that I'm going to do anything with it other than color it, but that's exactly what I would do if this was in a coloring book. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to start with the jellyfish, and I'm going to use a couple different colors in my Tombows. Once I finish that, I will show you this, like, I think I used 3 or 4 colors just to bring in the different colors. For me, jellies are always like these deep pinks, light pinks, and then of course you have like when they turn a different way, that real vibrant purple comes through. And a technique that I love to do is so that I don't get lines in my coloring with my Tombows is I take, excuse me, the blending brush and I dip it on the color that I want instead of just like applying the color and then using the blending brush to blend. I find that when I do that, you still can see the lines from the Tombow. So by dipping the colorless blender onto the color I want and then blending it, it works so much better. And of course, the blender will pick up a little bit of that color that's already down, and it just mixes really well. And then once I get my base colors down, then I'll go over with darker colors, and I'll take my Uniball pen, add white dots, and bring some highlights and things like that together. So once this is pretty much all done, it looks really good in my personal opinion. Okay, there are my little jellyfish. These are the colors that I used. Tombos. They look good. I'm going to work on my flowers next. So for my leaves, I'm going to be using 3 different tones. I'm going to be taking a really dark green, which will kind of be my base color. Then I have like a medium tone, which I kind of do like in the middle there. And then I'm going to take a light color, which I would call like a highlight color. And I'll start at the tip and kind of pull it down through the other 2 colors. And then, of course, they do blend pretty well with each other. I don't use a blending tool on this. The lighter color kind of blends them all together. I will go and touch this up a little bit when I do pull out my watercolors, because one thing about Tombos is that once, you put your color down, even if it's hours, days later, it'll dry, of course, but if they're water activated. So if you add water at any time, I don't care if it's months later, you're going to reactivate the ink in the Tombos. So I just do what I want to do with the leaves, knowing that in a little while I'm going to bring out my watercolors and I'll kind of touch them up there. So this is kind of like just a rough coloring just to get the base down for my leaves on my flowers. And then I'm going to bring out a bright yellow Tombow and I'm going to work on the little flowers. And I'm going to try my darndest to make the 2 little flowers that there's a yellow one and then a portion of that big flower that go behind the glass. You can see that the jar line goes through them. So I'm really going to try to challenge myself to what would that flower look like behind the glass. Of course, it wouldn't be as vibrant. So I'm going to really try to challenge myself with trying to make that look that way. So we'll see how that comes together. So as you can see, I chose a much lighter yellow color. I'm trying to show you the numbers in case you're interested. And I'm going to use the much lighter yellow on the 2 little yellow flowers that I feel are behind the glass to see if I like the way that looks. And then I'm going to start to go in with some of my watercolors, and I'm just going to bring a little depth to the yellow flowers by putting a bright orange center so that they look like they have depth, they go in. And I really like how those turned out. And then we're going to move on to other portions. Also, I'm going to try this video without any music so that you guys can hear kind of like the coloring process. For me, I like videos like that. It's almost like ASMR. I like to hear the coloring sounds of the marker and the water and such when you're using watercolors. You guys let me know down in the comments if you like that. I just wanted to try this video with no music. You tell me what you think. So I'm going to start to go in with a very light pink with my watercolors on this flower. I'm going to make it look very much different than the jellies. I don't want it to be like the same kind of pink. I think that'll like kind of distort the color of the jellies, but I want my base to be this pink. And I know with watercolor, I'll be able to achieve a very light pink, but have some depth because watercolor just does that naturally. And I'll be able to keep the portion that I feel is behind the glass a very, very light pink. So I'm really enjoying how this is going to turn out. And then I'm going to do the same kind of concept with my goldfish. I have this beautiful like gold color. I'm going to paint my entire goldfish this color, and I'll wait till he dries, and then I'll go back in with more color. And for all of my highlighting, I actually decided mid coloring of this picture that I would use my Prisma pencils to bring in the highlights over the watercolor and the Tombows to really make those things stand out. So when I'm highlighting and bringing depth to a picture, I never choose less than 3 pencils. I always find that if you have your very dark tone, then a medium tone, and then like your highlight, it will really bring whatever it is that you're bringing life to, so to speak, it'll really make it pop. So when you're choosing your colors, make sure you always have that real dark, deep tone. And then you'll have like a medium tone. And the medium tone really brings out the color. And make sure that when you're using your Tombows, you're pulling also over the darker tone, so you can bring some of the darker tone into the medium tone. And then whatever you're going to use for your highlight, I'm going to be using a little bit of a white pencil to bring in some of those lighter colors. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose two different colors that are lighter to do the lighter portion of the flower that is behind the jar, but I'm going to keep my medium tone the same. And I really think I achieved what it would kind of look like if that flower was behind the glass. You guys let me know down in the comments. I don't know, I just really wanted to challenge myself with that. But I really think by using the Prismacolor pencils on top of the watercolor, it really, really brought these flowers to life. I really like how they turned out. So for my goldfish here, I have 4 nice colors, all in that golden color for your goldfish, and one very dark color. For my goldfish, I'm going to start going in and highlighting my lines, and for that I'm going to be using like a golden rod color. And this one, I'm actually going to use the darkest color last, just to bring out some of my lines. And also, when you're coloring things like this, especially because the fish is going to be wet, I want it to have like a natural sheen or shine. So you just kind of figure like where you'd want that natural sheen or shine, and that's where you're going to add your white pencil too. And then you can even bring it up a little notch after and add some of, your Sigma, Uniball Signet pen and add some white in with that as well. But I think my goldfish came together pretty good. I was thinking about after I colored it, I should have drew in some scales, but after I put the pencil down, it gets too waxy for my pen to go in there. So it is what it is, but after an afterthought, it probably would have looked a lot better if I had some scales in on the fish's body. But I still like how he turned out. So I'm going to go in very quickly and just bring two colors with my Prisma pencils to do some of the splashes. I do the lighter color at the tip, the darker color at the base, and then I just go in, I alternate between the two colors for the smaller like drops. And then I'm going to move into my jar. This portion I don't show you a ton of because it gets kind of redundant. So I started out with some of my blue Tombos, doing the same kind of thing I did at the beginning where I would take on the jellies, where I would take the blending pen, kind of dip it into the darker color, kind of blend it through. Then I go back in with some of my watercolors to bring in some of the vibrance. The jar took me a little while because it was such a big portion. So I don't show you the whole thing coloring that because that was a huge portion of this video. But I'm basically using the same technique where I just take my blending pen and I'm using it as to bring in the color because I don't want lines throughout the jar. And I think I pretty much achieved that. I use some of my oh my gosh, watercolors, and I turn my paintbrush upside down and I use the tip because it's rounded to bring in some solid blue, like darker bubbles. And I really like how it came out. And then I kind of use some of my watercolors too at the base to kind of bring the base of that jar a little bit darker than the rest of the water. But I tried to make some portions, darker and lighter so it looked really like water. And in the end, I think I kind of achieved it. So now I'm going to go in with my Uniball Signo broad pen, and I'm just going to bring in a bunch of highlights. These were great over watercolors, over your Tombow brush pens. You sometimes they give me a little bit trouble when I try to put them over my pencils because the pencil's kind of waxy, but I usually get it to work. And I'm telling you, this white pen brings so much highlight to stuff, and it makes it more realistic, especially when you're dealing with anything with water because water always has like that glossy look. So I'm just going to take the time to do some bubbles and just bring highlights where I think it needs it. I really love how the picture turned out. I could have stopped there. It looked beautiful as is, but I thought I would take it one step further. So I'm just going to rip up some craft paper. I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to tape it down with some washi tape. And I'm just going to take my watercolors and I'm just going to splash watercolor everywhere. But I don't want any of the watercolor droplets to be on the main picture. So this is how I cover it up to like protect it. I just put, a nice piece of paper on there, put some washi, and then I'm just going to take a larger brush, dip it in the water, get it really saturated, dip it in the watercolors, and I just hit the back of the brush and it causes splatters just to give it that watercolor splatter. Another thing you can do is after you do that, you can take like a straw or even just your breath and you can blow on the splatters and it'll kind of push them out and make them more look very different. But I just wanted a splattered look for this particular picture. But I do enjoy doing that. And my favorite thing to do with that is get a straw. And I just because then you can aim more. If you just breathe on the water droplets, they can kind of go everywhere. But if you have a straw, you can aim where you want those to kind of like branch out. So depending on what look you want, it can be really fun to work with splatters. And there it is. There's the finished product. I can't tell if I liked it better before the splatters or after the splatters. Let me know in the comments which way you liked it better. But, I mean, it can't get any better than this. I had a full day of just artsy fun. I drew this and then I colored it. I mean, does it get any better than that? I ask you. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me today and taking the time out to watch this. I hope that you really, truly did enjoy it. And remember to color, sparkle, shine. See you in the next one.